Hi, and welcome to Coffe Chats with Impact, the series where I get to have real conversation with resilient people who have overcome the odds to succeed. My name is Kim Tapau, and it's my heartfelt desire to bring you the conversations that inspire you, uplift you, and make you hungry to live a life that you deserve. So my amazing guest today is the Melissa A Wiringi. Close?
Wiringi, yeah, close.
There we go. We practice. How bad's this, guys? But you know what? Yes, punctuation might not be quite as right. So on that aspect. So thank you for coming on board. You can see this beautiful background she's got at the moment. She's in Vietnam at the moment, guys. How epic is that? I'm sure a lot of us are jealous right now as we can't travel anywhere. How is it there for you at the moment?
It's amazing. It's amazing. We are now in, I think, gosh, what are we? Month 7. We're coming up to month 7 in Vietnam. We plan to be here 1 month, thanks Corona. But we are enjoying every moment. We've got to see heaps of the country. It's been flipping amazing, incredible.
That's awesome. So I've had some wonderful conversations with Melissa, and she's given me some great information about what she's achieved and where she was and where she is now. So I've got my trusty piece of paper here. I don't want to miss any of the details, so I'm going to read some of her achievements here because it's quite amazing. So let me get started. So Melissa is a world schooling mum of 3, an author, an international speaker, and the founder of melissawiringi.com. I think that right. She helps free-spirited humans monetize their heart and soul-inspired brands so that they can share their message, impact lives, and live their wildest dreams. As a young mum, depressed, Melissa left her drug-fueled, violent relationship with her 2 small children in tow, and she chose to rebuild her life by mastering her fears and following her deepest desires. She has since achieved many of her life's ambitions, living abroad, publishing her first book, and traveling the world with her family. She's currently editing her 2nd book, Start Within, while still going to many amazing places with her family. She shares her stories to motivate and inspire audience while teaching us that anything is possible when we start within, master our fears, and pursue our dreams. So, wow, that's pretty epic. I was like, yay!
Oh, man, it makes me feel so good.
Ooh, and you know what? A lot of people who could be listening right now, you know, a lot of times they see people who are successful and they go, wow, I'm not like them. You know, they've got that special thing, but they don't see all of the things that we have had to overcome to be the person we are now. And you shared with me and publicly in your book, Domestic Violence on Ice, that you were stuck in the middle of a drug-fueled relationship, which had you completely losing yourself and who you truly were and are. And you know what? A lot of people really struggle to leave such traumatic experiences like what you have been through. If somebody was with us right now and they were watching us and they were listening, can you share with us what was that critical moment, that line in the stand moment that you decided that you have to say yes to you and to your children?
So if anyone's in that, God, I remember it. And it's never as simple as one simple thing. It really isn't. I remember it took me multiple goes to properly detach myself and get out. You know, I started with a protection order, so similar to like an AVO if you're in Australia. And, you know, even then I still sort of stayed in and out for at least a few more months. So, you know, it's a process, and it's one where you can't beat yourself up, because you've got to really realize that, it does take time. It's really hard, especially when they come back to you and they're like, oh, I'll change. And especially when you've got children and you're like, oh, maybe this time they'll sort out. Maybe they love us enough to make that change. Maybe their children are enough to really spur that change. So if you're an optimist like me and you have all this hope in that person and you're like, okay, yeah, I'll give you another go. And, I went round and round in circles. If you read the book, you're going to be at the first chapters going, what the fuck is she doing? And then you're like, oh my God, it's getting worse. Like, what is she doing? And it's really like, when I read it back, I was like, you're crazy, lady. Like, what the hell were you doing? And so I guess for me, there were a few kind of moments where I just realized it wasn't getting any better. And that helped me to really detach. And that was like seeing, a glass light bulb, which they used to smoke the drugs sometimes, like just left in a coffee table one time and out on the front porch another time. And I just thought, I can't have my kids around this. This is fucking nuts. And it was really painful. Like, I'm not going to lie. It was a really painful, time in my life but I'm so grateful for it because, without me having to shatter everything that I all my expectations around family, I wouldn't have risen to be the strong person that I am today. Like, I was just a weak person going through the motions. And actually, I recall one of the police visits, there was a woman police officer who'd come in and she looked at me and she saw, and she just said, if you don't get out, you're just going to end up like all the rest of these silly women getting beaten up. And I was just like, fucking no, I will not. And I mean, that is such a harsh thing to say. And maybe if you said that to the wrong person, I don't know what that would do, but she said it to me and it fucking just hit home, man. I was just like, hell no, this is not going to be me. I'm not going to be, doing this. This is not, just her words. They actually were like really cutting and really nasty. And I don't even know if they came from a well-intentioned place or not, but they ended up landing really well. And that was part of it. It was a culmination of all these things happening. And then eventually I just got away for longer and longer and longer, building my strength. I probably didn't mention when I did the protection order AVO, I hadn't even had my second baby. I was about 2 weeks out from my second baby's birth. So when she was born right into the heart of the shittest time of my life. And that was really hard. Her first month on the planet was insane on every level, and I was trying to get out, and it was really hard. That made it extra hard because it wasn't just leaving with me and a child that actually slept. It was me leaving with a newborn and a not even 2-year-old. And that, I didn't even have the confidence. Part of what my mind might have been programmed by their father was that, you're a shitty mum. Like, you can't even cope with one kid. How the fuck are you going to cope with two? And that took its toll, like I didn't have a lot of confidence in that. So, I wasn't always big, crazy, wild, and free Melissa. Although I think she was always there waiting to be born. She just needed a bit of a shove. So for that, I'm always grateful. I never look back on my bad times with resentment. I always look at them on gratitude because, without that, I would probably be just another person living a mediocre life. And I love the fact that I had such a shit fucking wake up call that's just like slammed me into the universe and gone, hey honey, if you want to like have a really good life, you've got to go through some turmoil to get there. And probably the other call, really, like I actually mentioned it on another call that I did recently, was they said, was there anything that like happened that made you go onto this path that I'm now on? And I said, yeah, really crazy one. Part of our separation was we had court-ordered counselling sessions, but the counsellors were all completely booked out. So we just happened to land ourselves with a really fantastic psychologist. And he must be like the only psychologist on the face of the earth that looked at me and he goes, you haven't got a problem. Yeah, you've been depressed. You're probably being severely depressed. You're probably just coming out of that. But what you really need to know is you need to go and look up and study the law of attraction.
Oh, wow. Thank you, universe. How cool's that?
I was like, after that psychologist, I'll refer anyone to him because that shit changed my life. When I got off that program with him, like I think I only had like 4 sessions or something with him, but like literally went to the library and got books out about that. And here I am right now. I am staying in and out the gate, like my apartment, my little house is yellow. have my little yellow house. My swimming
It's
pool's
so cool.
empty at the moment. And it's so cute. Like, I love it.
It's interesting that you say when you were just talking about that, if someone was reading your book, Domestic Violence on Ice, that you made the comment around, you think they're going to change, or you think something's going to happen, and and I can relate, because myself is also a domestic violence survivor, and I remember as well, very much so, that every time it happened, you kind of went, oh, they'd either cry, and they'd be very clever in the aspect that they would convince you that if you hadn't done this, or you didn't say that, then I would have never done XYZ. And I think it's a really important message to share today when people are watching us, that it's never okay. And that domestic violence isn't always something, sometimes we think it's physical, but domestic violence can be emotional. It's, you can't wear that. Why are you doing that? Where are you going? Give me your phone. And there's so many other ways and forms that it takes form, that we need to be really clear about our boundaries and what is and isn't being abused. I don't know, what's your thoughts on that?
110%, Kim. Like, really, that was why I titled the book I did, because I didn't really experience a severe level of physical. I never really got bruises or anything like that. It was never a physical violence. It was actually completely psychological, really like controlling. It had me just questioning everything. It was a lot of psychological and emotional verbal abuse. And I had a lot of suggestions, like people saying, oh, like maybe give it a softer title. And I was like, you know what? If I give it a softer title, I'm minimizing what the reality of it is. And that is the piss poor thing, because for me, in my head, and actually if I'm going to say a sentence, and it was, what I said to the police was, but he hasn't hit me. So if you ever find yourself saying, but he hasn't hit me, you've got a problem, sister. Like, really, seriously, because that was my line. To me, my line in the sand was, if he physically abused me, that would be my okay to walk. Like, it's not okay for me to just leave because he's calling me a dickhead, or it's not okay for him, it's fine if he says that, he can take it back. Like, it's just words, it's not real. But because I was tolerating so much, over time, it just got worse and worse and worse, and just snowballed into just something completely horrible. And at the start, I was able to stand my own ground and go, no, that's not who I am. That's not who I am. But over time, that, it really did impact me, and I broke down. And it's that realization, we are living in a society where they go, oh, words will never hurt me, blah, blah, blah. Words do fucking hurt. So, if you're living in that box of control, like, realize it's actually not okay. It is as bad as physical. And actually, quite often, even survivors of physical stuff say that the psychological stuff is the stuff that messed them up more than the physical. So don't ever, minimize it, because I was minimizing the hell out of it. I was like, oh no, but it's more like, it's for my family. I want to keep my family together. That's what I kept saying. I want to keep my family together. I just want to have a happy family. That's all I want. Like, it can't be that bad, it's not that bad. I'm not really suffering. There's people in far worse situations. And yes, there are people in far worse situations, but you always have a choice. Once you hit that adult point in your life, you have a choice. You can either stay a victim, or you can own the shit out of your life and say, yeah, I'll take responsibility for this, this, and this. I chose to let myself be a victim. I'm out. And that's it. That's that ownership. And, at some point, you're going to have that conversation with yourself, and you've got to make that choice.
And I think, the God, universe, whatever higher power that you think that is that you speak to, was always watching you, because the fact that he put that psychologist in your place, I'm a firm believer, and I know that you are as well, that, our thoughts create our reality. And when you are actually stuck in an environment like that, where somebody emotionally continues to chip, 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 and take your friends away because your friends don't like them anymore, and then you're solely relied on one person, that your self-worth completely disappears, that you actually believe what they tell you. And that man just gave you the best gift in the world, because he gave you that little spark to bring your self-worth back, which was just, it really, it's just a blessing. Otherwise you wouldn't be here with us.
I know. Yeah, I think that's incredible. I'm so blessed. Like, I'm so grateful. I think I used to call myself dead man walking at the end of it. And I think I was a dead man walking. I used to walk around, I just was empty. And now I think, thank you, because it gave me like a dead clean slate to start from scratch. I just put in the pieces that I wanted, and I built it up from nothing. And it was like being reborn. I used to say I was like being reborn.
So I suppose that was sorry. No.
That was before I learned about how the subconscious works. So
oh, it's funny, the things we learn. You know what? Self-development isn't do this course, read this book. It's a continually, every single day growth experience, and you will continue to grow and grow and grow if you do the work. You know what, many people, and you just touched on it briefly a few minutes ago, but many people who would be, that would be, maybe stuck where you are, or where I was, could make the choice to sort of, struggle with their thoughts and say, why me? Why is this happening to me? And they get kind of trapped in that role of playing the victim, and which is totally understandable for where they are. And you could have easily taken that role yourself, especially just having another baby. And that would have been very easy to kind of just stay there until you felt strong enough. What do you think, what makes you different? What besides making a choice, what do you really think makes you different, that you went down a completely different path to be able to be the successful person you are today?
Don't get me wrong. I was that person. I was a victim. I was the victim for a little while or a long while. It depends how you look at it. I was complaining and I was bitter. And why is this happening to me? How is this happening to me? Like, what have I done so wrong in my life? Da, 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 da. Like, honestly, I was the victim. At my worst point, I actually wanted to die. And I actually rang my mum and told her that. I wanted to fall off the face of the earth. To be perfectly honest, I was a pure, perfect victim. And I played that victim. Even after I left, I was still the victim, because I would still, he would bring up and say, oh, I want the kids this weekend, I'm missing them. And then I'd go and organize a night out. And then, he'd find out that I've got a night out. So he'd ring me on the day and go, oh, actually, I don't want the kids anymore. So you've got to, like just shit like that. Or he'll say, oh, can you bring me the kids? I'll give you some petrol money when you get here. He knew that I was on a benefit, I had no job. I'd get there, he would have no money for me. So that would have had to come out of our grocery shop for the week, shit like that. I was still the victim for at least 6 months out of that, maybe even 9 months out of that. And it comes back again to my trusty psychologist who said to me, sweetheart, you're a bit of like a pour me a drink. And I went, oh. Oh,
I love that. Okay. That's so good. That's a great analogy. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was. I was pour me. And I was drinking like nothing else. I was on the alcohol however I could get it. I'd have friends that would buy me alcohol, and I was drinking every weekend when I could. I mean, I wasn't drinking really when I had the kids, but as soon as they were gone, I was pretty much drinking. There were a couple of times when I did have the kids and I did drink, but there were other people around as well. So I wasn't being the worst mother on the face of the planet. Nothing terrible happened. But it really was. I was in alcoholism. I was just wallowing, and it's okay to be like that, but don't stay like that. If you're doing it and you're watching this and you're going, fuck, that's me, I'm being poor me and everything's poor me. Some people don't even want to see it though. But if you can recognize that in yourself, it's okay. Don't beat yourself up, because it's a moment in time, but you have that choice. And so when he said to me, oh, it just sounds a bit poor me. And I went, oh, okay, so I've got to reframe somehow. And look, it takes a while. It's not something, if you've been practicing poor me victimhood your whole entire life, it's going to take more than a couple of days to change your thought patterns out of that. It's not like you're going to wake up tomorrow and be completely in charge of your poor me patterns, because it's ingrained and you've been programming that brain wiring for a long time. And so it takes a little while to change that. And I mean, we can talk practical, like what I did. Number one was my cool affirmation, my life is awesome. I used to walk around the house rolling my freaking eyeballs, going, this is so stupid. My life is awesome. My life is awesome. This is so stupid. Why am I doing this? I'm so desperate to be happy. My life is awesome. My life is awesome. But you know what? 3 months later, I was giving my baby daughter a bath. She shat everywhere and I was laughing while I was going, my life is awesome. And actually, my life has gone pretty awesome. My baby's 6 months old. She's pooed in the bath. My life is awesome. I'm actually laughing. I'm actually laughing. And
only another mother can relate to that. Really.
Exactly. Exactly. And it was like, but it was my telling myself. I honestly, if anything, I did not believe that was going to work. I was just like, this is just the most ridiculous thing. This cannot work because my brain doesn't think it's going to work, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm desperate to be happy. And the other thing was the gratitude practice. I started doing 3 things I'm grateful for every day because, our parents all taught us to be grateful. Thank you, Nana, for my present, blah, 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 blah. Most people didn't get taught how to feel grateful. And I'm one of those. And I thought I was a grateful person, but I really wasn't. It was doing that 3 things every day. And sometimes it was like, I'm grateful for sunshine. I'm grateful that that my baby went to bed. Like I was really, really hard to come up with 3. Now you ask me what I'm grateful for and I'll be talking all day long. Like I can all day. I ride my bicycle, like pedal bike, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes down the road. And the whole way I'm just like, this is so cool. I love my life. I'm so grateful. I'll see a baby cow, go, oh, I'm so lucky I just saw a baby cow. And my brain is now primed for gratitude. It took about 8 years to be solid, like all day long on talking on gratitude all day. But 8 years. So don't beat yourself up. It takes time. And that's it. It takes time.
I love that because my favorite one I see wonder everywhere. So if I expect to see it, I see it. But I totally, I suppose one of the messages that you're really making loud and clear there is, and I know personally in my own life it's been that, is sometimes, because I'm quite analytical and so I'm quite in my head a lot of the time. So when I first came across the gratitude practices and stuff, like I was like, when I first picked up the book, The Magic, I was like, oh yeah. And I'm like, just tell me the strategy. I just want to know the strategy of how to do something. And yeah, I was exactly the same, going, I'm grateful for, like, who's listening? Like, is this working? And exactly, it's the fact that if we're just consistent with something every single day, and it doesn't have to be a really long process. It just needs, as soon as I when I wake up, I'm like, I'm so grateful for this bed that I had to sleep, whether it was good or bad. And when I put my feet down, I'm so grateful that I'm able to walk. And it's just those little things every few minutes that you do, that no matter how shitty you are when you wake up, the more you do it, it shifts. It shifts the energy. And you know what? If you're struggling at the moment in a relationship at all, the type we're thinking about is, one of the words that I would say when I was stuck in there is, I'm so grateful that there is a better life for me. You know what? That I deserve more. I didn't believe I deserved more. I believed that I wasn't worthy of more. But eventually, and it's, I'm 52, so it's, it took me a long time to believe that I was worthy and deserved more. So I agree with you. Don't be hard on yourself. And know that there's people like you, me, there's so many people out there that if you're stuck in that place, that even if you don't know who we are, that if you reached out to us, we would be there to help and give you support and tell you and support you and guide you. So know that you don't have to keep it quiet, because I think that was the biggest thing. I had so much shame around, so much shame around that I let somebody, because I was actually really feisty when I first dated this person, like really feisty.
Same.
And so, when the first time he started doing some sort of behavior that wasn't really nice, I'd be like, I don't think you should be doing that. You can just stop that sort of rubbish. And that's, for me, that was when the first punch came. So mine was really violent. And I got so shocked. And then I sat there and went, what just happened? And God, it's nearly 30 years ago, and I still get emotional when I think about it. And I remember him crying and blaming me, going, it's my fault because you said you were being lippy, and if you hadn't. And I remember each time it happened, it would somehow I would believe it was my fault. And it wasn't until I had my line in the sand moment, which was, I knew that he was then going to hurt my daughter. And so when that moment came, that was my line in the sand moment, and I grabbed everything and went to Women's Refuge and left, and I never went back. But like you said, I didn't go, yay, I'm all free now, this is awesome. It took, it takes us many, many years. And as you can see now, it was nearly 30 years ago. I'm in an amazing marriage now and having beautiful children. But even just think, it doesn't go away. So it's something that we continually have to work through, but we don't have to be that person anymore. You can choose be something different.
Yeah, it's something that you touched on there. Yeah, the shame, the embarrassment, you know, it's, God, I wish that wasn't a thing, because it was really like, I didn't tell anyone. No one had a clue what was going on. Hold on. Got my phone call coming in. Yeah, you know, nobody, go away. You know I'm on a phone call.
Somebody wants to talk to you.
No, it's not important. He knows I'm hanging up. No, like the shame and the guilt, you know, no one knew what was going on, and I'd hid it so well. And that made it even harder, because then afterwards, you know, he was able to then go, oh, she's just flipping nuts, because I hadn't said anything, you know, it made me look like a loopy lady. Oh, you guys are annoying.
I love that I love that you're bringing that up, because I remember one time I had this big bruise under my arm, and at the time I was doing kickboxing. And, you know, it's the manipulation that makes it quite difficult. And I remember a friend of mine seeing the bruise, and he was there. And I'd been trained so well, but he always jumped in and went, oh, yeah, she was doing kickboxing. She got hit by the thing. And I'd just be like, so the same, people had no idea. They'll be like, oh, God, Kim's always clumsy. She's always, you know, type thing. But yeah, it's crazy. But I suppose our message today is, if you are in that, you can see that we both survived it, and it's only because we reached out and got help.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, I think that's been one of the best things about writing that book, is that I'm really open about it. Like, when people say, oh, what's your book about? I say, oh, domestic violence on ice. And you kind of watch their brains just go, what the actual fuck did she just say? And is that about her, or is that about something else? I'm like, yeah, no, it's my story. It's my story. And they're like, oh my gosh. And you watch their brain. Like, I love, it's almost a bit of a sick, twisted, like, I enjoy the craziness of people, just like, they're not expecting that, because they see me and this is the last thing that they expect me to write about.
Exactly.
And, you know, so, but it opens up the door for conversation, because, you know, now I've told them I've written a book about domestic violence on ice, and it's based on my story. What do you think? Like, if they're going through shit, or they've been through shit, they're now comfortable straight off the bat to tell me stuff that they wouldn't otherwise have said, because they would have thought, well, Melissa's got this perfect life. And that's the reality, is if you've been through stuff, so this is for someone who's been through stuff and now out the other side, it is a gift to actually talk about it, because now you're going to make it a lot easier for somebody in your presence who has been through or is going through it to talk to you. And that is what we need. We need people who have come through and have come through okay, and now are living a really good life, to be able to say, hey, it wasn't always great, you know, like, I had some tough times, and this is what it was about, because you're opening a pathway for other people to talk. You're saying it's okay to talk about what you've been through. Like, oh my God, writing that book, I was terrified about the judgment I was going to get. You know, I was worried about, like, some of the stuff I put in there is really like, I had to think, do I actually want to? Do I not want to? Should I turn it into a fiction and dramatize the hell out of it? Because it wasn't really like, there was no boxing or anything going on. But, I came back and I decided I was going to go real raw, and I was going to go deep, and I was going to tell all the sordid stuff that would, like, it's embarrassing, some of the stuff that happened. But by doing that, I realized, when people read it, no one came at me and went, "Oh, you're such a dipshit. What the fuck were you thinking?" Like, nobody's come and said that to me. The only negative people that I've had are people that were from that time in my life who perceived their bullshit story to be way, way worse than mine. And yeah, whatever, like, you can own that. Like, I don't even care if you want to complain about who had it worse, like, you have it, like, I don't care, like, that's not me. But anyone who's been in their life doing something or trying to make a change, they've read it and gone, oh my gosh, this is amazing, like, I really appreciate it. And I had one of the most touching pieces of feedback I had from my book was someone really close to me read it, and she said, one, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. And two, she said, oh my God, thank you. Because at the end there, when you talked about forgiveness, I realized I'd been holding on to stuff from my shitty relationship from, 30 years ago. She goes, I read your book and I was finally able to let go of stuff that I'd been holding on for years. And like, that is why I wrote it. Like, honest to God, I didn't write it to make it dramatic. I didn't write it to make him a dickhead. I wrote it to free other people because I felt so free. And that was the purpose. And that's what it's doing.
So powerful. So powerful. So you've just touched on it. So if when you have got so many achievements now, so you've gone from this, you've gone through all the hard work, you've come out the other end and you've achieved so much, and you're in the public arena, obviously you would get your fair share of haters from that, and people who don't really aren't in your corner. So if somebody was watching now, they've gone through all that and they're thinking about sharing their story, they've come out the other end and they're thinking about maybe sharing their story or putting themselves out in the public arena, what type of advice would you give to them if they were afraid to do that right now?
If you're afraid to do it right now, build your circle with strong women. Okay. Honest to God, because what's going to happen is when you finally do spread your message and you're surrounded by, and that might even mean just making cool friends like myself and Kim and other really strong women, even if they're online, because what you'll find is when you're making friends with these people who are very strong, when you finally do have the courage to share that, your love that you get from strong women is going to way, way, way far outweigh any minuscule haters that you get. The hater people will be 1 in 100 or 1 in 200. Like, honestly, like, I've been so blessed and grateful. I've had barely any hate, and the only hate that I've had come through wasn't even really, really nasty. It was just bitter and painful, and it wasn't even anything to do with me. It was really funny. Like, I actually went through my old Facebook page the other day, and I was reading some of my old posts because no one really ever commented on that page because I hadn't built my profile yet. And I had a real chuckle because I'd put this post up and the only person who had commented on it was someone from my old life. And the comment that they'd put on it was filled with like bitterness, but it had nothing to do with my post. And I was like, okay, like, at the time that probably really hurt me, but I'm looking back and I'm like, how did you come to that from? Like, I wrote that and you wrote that, and they're like chalk and cheese. And I don't even, like, she wasn't even reading what I was writing. She was reading whatever she wanted to read and then projecting whatever was going on inside of her. It had nothing to do with me. And so that's what I see when I see people being negative on social media. I'm just like, that's got nothing to do with whoever's posted stuff. It's always got something. It's just them. And that's how I look at everything. I can apply that technique to absolutely any negative thing on the face of the earth. If somebody's negative at you, it's got nothing to do with you. It's got everything to do with them. Let it go. Don't fight with it. Just let them be them. You can't control what other people are going to say about you. And that's in regards to absolutely flipping anything on the face of the earth. You can't control another person. You just have to let that go. Let that person be a dipshit over there, and you just keep walking your walk, because there's cool people like us on the face of the earth, and we can lift each other up,
Look, I asked the same question of every single person who was a guest on my series, and I always end up with this question. If there was a book, an audio, or an activity that helps you really struggle, helps you get out of struggle through challenging times, what would that be?
There's 2 books and they have the activities in them.
Oh,
Art of Happiness. The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama. Just you have to with the Art of Happiness, you kind of have to block out the co-writer because he's kind of annoying. He's like this not very enlightened psychologist, and he writes it from a really like, how are you even a psychologist perspective. So if you just ignore annoying, like you'll get an annoying, like this guy's so annoying. If you can just work past his voice and listen to what the Dalai Lama says, amazing, pure gold in there. My favorite takeaway from that is your greatest enemy is your greatest teacher.
Yes,
pure gold.
Yeah.
And then the second book to that is The Key to Living the Law of Attraction by Jack Canfield, because that was the steps that I took that propelled. And if it wasn't for that first 101 list of things I want to do with my life, and I'm not talking just go for like a walk to the next town, I'm talking like really big things, he was the guy that put that and that planted that seed. And this trip is directly from that. So like I did that practice 101 list, and a year later I finally started to get close to my 101, and one of the things I wrote down was travel the world with my kids.
That's so cool. I'm so happy. That's awesome. Like, you know what, I truly believe that inside each and every one of us we have what I'd like to call the resilience factor. And I think all we need to do is ignite it and harness it, and we can live the life that we deserve and desire. So I want to thank you so much for being on today. Guys, this is that was our episode of Coffe Chats with Impact. I hope that it inspired you, uplifted you, and made you hungry to live the life that you deserve. Thank you so much. And I'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Coffe Chats with Impact.